Hi, I'm George Shevchik, and this is the White Post Studio channel. And today we're going to be talking about the Ukraine, the crisis, the war, a little background on Ukraine. I'm here with Dan Scalera, Dan Scalera, and his brother Ben Scalera. And I want to first go over a few things because I think I have a unique perspective in that I am part Russian, part Ukrainian, but I'm also part German and part Romanian. But I do speak Russian and I do speak sort of Ukrainian and I understand Ukrainian. And I've been following the history of this and the conflict, and this is the way I see it. Ukraine gained its independence roughly in towards the end of the 1980s, and as a result of the Soviet Union falling apart. And this was a blessing for Ukraine, a great opportunity. Unfortunately, they mumbled and fumbled, and eventually everything ended in catastrophe. I remember even back in the early 90s, I heard stories and read stories about I think it was Verizon wanted to create a wireless network all across Ukraine. But they came across so much corruption and people were looking for kickbacks and so many obstacles that finally Verizon just said the hell with it, and they just packed up and left. And that was a good indicator of things to come. Anyway, I don't know the history of Ukraine intimately. I do know that they had a series of leaders, and there was this one fellow called Yushchenko that was poisoned. People say it was by the Russians, but who knows? All I know is that Yushchenko was trying to be a man of the people, but after he was poisoned, all of a sudden he became a puppet for the deep state. And he turned out to be no better than anybody else. So you had a series of leaders. I don't want to go through them. Most people don't know who they are. But then you ended up with Poroshenko, who was called I think they called him the Chocolate King or something because he made his millions with a chocolate factory. And eventually this Zelensky got elected as I don't even know what their title is, prime minister or president, but he's the head honcho right now in Ukraine. Zelensky came from a background of movie making and entertainment. He was a comedian, he was a dancer, he starred in a show that was produced partially by a guy called, some people call him Igor, but some people call him Gennady, but his last name was Kolomoisky. And this guy was, as Glenn Beck one time said on his Blaze program, that this is the kind of guy that cut up his enemies with a chainsaw. So this was like the Don Gotti or the Al Capone, Al Capone, the Al Capone of Ukraine. And he financed Zelensky and his campaign. And Zelensky was always in his pocket, or he had Zelensky in his pocket. And also Zelensky was always a tool for Victoria Nuland and all the influence that America had over Ukraine. There's a lot of stories about the day of the revolution, which happened in 2014, and it all happened on the square that's called the Maidan, and there was all kinds of uprisings, and eventually there was violence, but one of the things that I'll always remember is the reports were that there were snipers, and the snipers were shooting people on both sides of the conflict. Now, once you know that you have a sniper that's shooting on both sides of the conflict, there's one thing that you will know for sure, and that is that there's a third party involved. Now, of course, the people from Western Ukraine say that third party was Russia, and the Russians in the East say that third party was the United States of America. I have my suspicions that it was America, but I really don't know for sure, so we really can't go there. But the thing is that Ukraine has always had a belligerent policy towards Russia, and Ukraine was always manipulated by America after the Maidan. And I think the videos of Joe Biden forcing the prosecutor to drop the charges, or Ukraine won't get billions of dollars, I mean, there's prima facie evidence that America certainly had its grips into the corruption in America, had its fingers into the corruption in Ukraine, and they're all in bed together, and all kinds of crazy things are happening. Military buildups, threats to join NATO.
John McCain going there.
John McCain going there with Lindsey Graham. And fomenting more war and threats and hostilities. Then we didn't know about it until now that the war happened, but in the process they were making those laboratories, and all kinds of, Anthony Fauci kind of products were being manufactured there, I'm sure. And and what a lot of Americans don't know, and this is what you should know. You should know that when Maidan happened, when the first guy that took over was a guy called, I forgot his name. But anyway, he was another transitionary character after he left Ukraine. He also became rich and is retired in Florida. It might come to me later. But the thing of it is that Ukraine was always threatening the people in the eastern part of Ukraine, which is called the Donbass. Now, the Donbass consists of two areas, Lugansk and Donetsk, and collectively that's called the Donbass. And instead of going to those people after the Maidan and saying, okay, look, we had to overthrow this guy, Yanukovych was his name, he was supposedly the Russian lackey. We had to overthrow him. We didn't like him. He was preventing us from getting closer to the West. Why don't you join us? We'll work out some kind of a deal. Let's keep our country together. No, they didn't act that way. They went to Donbass and they said, we're in charge now, and you do what we say or else. And guess what Donbass said? Or else. And therein started the conflicts. And over the course of 8 years, from 2014 to the present, before this war actually started, the Ukrainian government killed 14,000 people in Donbass. There was no problem while 14,000 people were being killed. And let's put that into perspective. If there were some 3,000 plus people killed during 9/11, 14,000 is a multiple of almost 5. It's 4.5 times as many people as was killed at 9/11. But that was okay. People blown to pieces, no problem. Then when Russia invades Ukraine, all of a sudden it's the end of the world. Putin is the craziest, and he's a new Hitler, and all kinds of problems are beginning. Now, before we continue, I want you to understand why Putin is hated as much as he is, and that is because when Putin came to power. No, actually, before Putin came to power, when the Soviet Union fell apart, and the oligarchs grabbed up everything. They owned it all. And it stayed that way until Putin came into power. And when Putin came into power, he gradually wrestled a lot of that power and money away from those oligarchs. Now, when it comes to oligarchs, it's like a club. It's like a world club. Like, for example, in the days of the royalty, the monarchies, do you know how monarchies sometimes had more loyalty to other monarchs in other countries than they did to their own people? For example, in Russia, the Tsar married a German woman, and she became the tsarina. And that happened in a lot of European countries also, where royalty seemed to have more affinity towards the people on their own level than they did to the masses. And the same is true with oligarchs. Oligarchs basically are a club. And if you mess with any of them, you mess with all of them. And when Putin messed with the oligarchs in Russia, he made oligarchs enemies of the oligarchs all around the world.
Like Bill Gates.
Like Bill Gates. So they all hate him, and they're determined to get rid of him, and they're determined to get that wealth back that they once had in Russia. And therein lies all the trouble. And Ukraine is nothing but a pawn on the chessboard, and these oligarchs are determined to fight against Putin and Russia, even if they have to do it to the very last Ukrainian. The Ukrainians have been suckered into this situation, and they are being burned up and used up like cannon fodder for the purposes of these globalist oligarchs. And that's basically where I'm coming from. That's basically the stage that I'm setting. This is the way I understand it. And now, in addition to that, you've got these corrupt characters that we have running our country in these days, trying to focus all our attention, sending money over there, instead of doing anything they can that is good for America. They're just throwing all of our money into a corrupt, criminal, bottomless pit. So anyway, I know that Dan seems to know a lot on this topic. He can pick up at any point he wants to and put in his own 2 cents as far as this situation is concerned.
But first, I want to say it's really a shame that, like you said, the Ukrainian people are being burned up. They're just, it's such a waste that they were tricked into this. And the people who tricked them don't care about them. They don't care how many Ukrainians die. They just want the Ukrainians to go up against Russia because they don't like Russia.
It's like a ruler saying, some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
That's a quote from a movie.
That's from Shrek.
Yeah.
You know the movie Shrek?
Yeah.
That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, they certainly have no problem sacrificing Ukrainians. And again, just like all throughout history, no matter how you cut it, one way or another, it turns out in a situation where you have white Christians killing other white Christians and oligarchs laughing all the way to the bank, which they own. So we're in a sad state of, but we don't want to make videos about BS that everybody else talks about, on the different channels. Probably this video is not going to make it on YouTube because there's just too much truth here. And also, we don't really want to support YouTube. We want to support their competitors. And we want to build up those competitors because those competitors are allowing truth to be told. Whereas media like Facebook and Google and Twitter and YouTube.
American oligarchs.
Actually, to tell you the truth, this is the same crowd that owns these corporations that are the troublemakers of the world. These are the same people that created the Russian Revolution, the same people that foment wars all over the place, get people killed, and then after they're invalids and they've got missing legs and arms, then they're the first ones to create fundraising programs to build them houses in which, in reality, they probably make more money than the people that are getting the houses because there are, what do they call them? There are expenses for running the business, charity businesses. The executives that run charities usually make more money than the recipients of the charities. So no matter how you turn, no matter where you look, it's always one racket after another. And one of the things that I would like for Americans and all the people in the world to do is start to become aware, suspicious. I mean, you don't have to become conspiratorial completely, but you do have to realize that conspiracy is the natural state of man. if you were to have three business competitors, it's very likely two of them are going to team up against the third. It's just the way things are. And as long as you open up your eyes to that and you realize and you're vigilant about looking around and seeing what the hell is going down, then the people that are voting will become wiser. And once they become wiser, then the representatives that they elect will become of a higher quality.
Two people can keep a secret when two of them are dead.
Yeah. And you were saying about how more people should understand what's going on. A lot of people really don't care about politics, but then when they see something go wrong, they panic and they wonder what just happened, and then sometimes that pushes them into actually being motivated to learn more about the reality of the situation. So what we should try to explain to people why it's important to learn about history and what's going on before you get into a panic situation.
Learn the context before you just jump on the current thing.
Right.
Yeah, and don't always believe what mainstream media tells you. As a matter of fact, these days, you're much better off listening to what mainstream media tells you and then believe the exact opposite. That's probably, you got a better chance of believing what's really happening. And if it wasn't for alternative media, nobody would be able to hear anything, because these people that I watch on the different major networks, I call them liars for hire, okay? That's all they are. They're just paid for, just like our politicians, most of them. We've got the best government money can buy. And I was very deeply disappointed by that senator from Louisiana. He's got the namesake of our president that was assassinated, John Kennedy. You must have heard of the Kennedy from Louisiana, the senator that they have down there. He makes a lot of appearances on Fox, and he's very known for having a quick wit and a humorous approach to his constituents and everybody in the country. And guess what? Senator Kennedy did. He voted for the $40 billion to go to Ukraine. I mean, what am I talking about? 40 was it 40 billion?
Yes.
It was 40 billion.
40 billion.
Yes.
$40 billion. I mean, this is getting to be like crazy. I mean, he is obviously getting support from the military-industrial complex, because probably half of that money is getting kicked back to the military-industrial complex. Now, I got no problem in supporting the military, but not by way of deception.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
There's a lot of money involved in the military, and they want the country to be at war. They want the war so that they can create their weapons. If there is no war, then there's no reason for making weapons, and weapons are really expensive, especially compared to what we used to have 100 years ago. The weapons we use now are a lot more sophisticated with their computer-guided capabilities and things that we wouldn't have imagined years ago. So there's a lot of money in encouraging people to just continue fighting. And some people we know have been saying that they're just trying to get a war started so that they can make a profit, no matter who's at war. They just want a war somewhere.
Yeah, there is that crowd, and then there's the people that have an axe to grind, and then there's the different political and globalist agendas that people have around the world. I'm sure that a lot of that stuff is happening on a level that I'm sure there's a lot happening on that level that we don't fully understand. Didn't you ever wonder? or didn't you ever occur to you how a lot of people think that they understand everything that's happening in the world? Don't you realize, or don't you agree, that there's probably a lot of things happening in the world that we don't know about?
Oh, well, there were several times throughout history that even the physicists decided, okay, that's it for physics. We don't need to learn anything more because, well, that's all physics. There's no more physics we need to learn.
Everything that there is to know, we've learned already.
Yes, and then one of the times Albert Einstein came along and said, no, wait, we've got relativity, and oh, wait, we've got quantum mechanics. So it's just the nature of humans to think that they already know everything there is to know.
I remember when I saw the movie, what was it, 80 Days Around the World? Around the World in 80 Days. The scientists thought they knew everything, and they said it's impossible for a person to go 50 miles per hour without dying because their internal organs would fall apart. There's so many crazy things that people thought they understood in the past, but they turned out to be completely wrong about what was going on.
Right. Yeah, I remember speaking with an atheist one time, and he was telling me something similar to that. And he was saying, oh, there can't be a God because we would scientifically know it, and I only believe things that can be proved scientifically. So I said to him, well, it's a good thing that you're living in today's day and age, because if you lived in the 17 or early 1800s, and somebody was to describe radio to you or television, you would say you're crazy. Nothing like that could possibly exist because science hasn't invented it yet. So it's in the same vein, God only knows what kind of things are going to be invented in the future, and you have to realize that that probably is the way things will turn out.
An atheist that we know says that basically he wouldn't believe in God unless God came and stood before him and granted his every wish. And I asked him, wait, so you want a genie, right? And that's kind of what he wants. That's what people expect of God. They expect God to be a genie. If God isn't a genie, then they don't see why they should believe in God.
Well, in that vein, I want to tell you something about God, because a lot of people like that, they're self-serving, and that is probably the major problem in our society, is that people tend to be more self-serving today than they were in the past. And I read a book about the history of America, and they were about the early Puritans and pioneers. And one of the things that I remembered they said in that book that I think is kind of worth mentioning is that in the Orthodox and Catholic Church, the cross always represents the Trinity, and there is the crossing yourself in the name of the Trinity. But this was a different perspective on the crucifix, and it basically said that the vertical shaft of the crucifix is your relationship with God, up and down to you, to God, back down to you. But the horizontal shaft on the crucifix was your relationship with your fellow man. Mm-hmm. And basically, this is missing. There is no relationship, vertical or horizontal. These people are just hooray for me and the hell with everybody else, mm-hmm. And therein lies the problem. And you've got people that are running our government that are sociopaths. Mm-hmm. I think you would agree with me that people like Nancy Pelosi and Bill Clinton and even Hillary, and even Obama, Barack Obama. I would imagine that to some extent even Donald Trump is self-centered and has a high ego, but he definitely, in my opinion, does not rise to the level of a sociopath. Mm-hmm. He is just somebody with a big ego, and to some extent you have to have a big ego, because if you let everybody walk all over you, you're never going to be able to get anywhere.
Yeah. And you could see this more in what we saw with Hunter Biden's laptop, that he's a very self-serving person, and he doesn't really care about others. And that's a lot of what was going on in Ukraine. There was a lot of self-serving people that didn't care about what happened to the Ukrainian people.
And the Ukrainian people have their fair share of responsibility, because there was, from what I could tell, the reason why Zelensky got elected is because of foolishness, apathy, and ignorance, okay? And you don't elect somebody to be president of your country because he made a good president on a TV show. That's just not logical. And a lot of people didn't vote at all because there's an expression in Ukraine. Oh, that's not really my affair. I'm just over here on the edge. I don't really care, you know, and that has nothing to do with me. I'm just going to sit here on the edge and live my own little life. But no matter how much you think you're on the edge, you're part of the pot. You're part of the whole pie. You have to be involved. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that I don't like Jehovah's Witnesses, because Jehovah's Witnesses go around telling people not to participate in politics. And I think that's a cop-out, you know. We have to all participate. Not only do we have to vote, but we have to do some research to find out who we're voting for. Not just the most attractive person, but the person that has got some inner quality. And I think that a lot of people they don't have as much ability to be able to look inside a person. You know, everything is superficial and shallow. And then you start, you know, electing people that are, you know, empty suits. That are, I mean, I'm not saying they're stupid, but they're not doing anything for the country. People like Bill Clinton and Obama, and I'm sure that there are many, many other examples. But you know, I'm sure you all know better than I do of all the bums we've got that are getting. Look at a good example is AOC. I mean, she is totally self-serving. She's just an I mean, what annoys people about her is that she's stupid. And you say to yourself, how did somebody? And by the way, she's not alone. There are so many stupid people in Congress, and Congress is something that you're supposed to look up to. You think to yourself that somehow these are the best among us, that we've chosen to have leadership or to make laws for us. And in many cases, and there are some people in Congress that are exceptional, I mean, no doubt. But there are also others that have been elected by foolish people that are totally, you know, unfit to work, you know, even in any position of responsibility, let alone become congresspeople. That's my opinion.
Look, they won the popularity contest. That's why they're there.
Yeah, exactly. They won the popularity contest, but people are voting for them on the basis of foolish reasons.
And think about how Bill Clinton played saxophone on stage.
Yeah, he played saxophone. You see, the thing that gets me about him, not to mention the fact that he was a whoremonger, but he was cold-blooded, ruthless scumbag. You know, that he bombed Serbia just to get the attention away from his goings-on with Monica Lewinsky. So can you imagine how many people died and were bombed to death just because he wanted to get Monica Lewinsky off of the you know, the headlines? I mean, is that not a scumbag? I mean,
That coincided. Okay.
yeah. So there's a lot of things like that are going on all the time. I mean, these people are very calculating, you know. And then another thing that I want to mention is kind of like a sideline, but I hear you know, I'm going to make no bones about it. I like Tucker Carlson. He's one of my favorite shows on Fox. And him and even some of the others, you know, Hannity and Kelly, what's his name? Greg Kelly on Newsmax. They'll show a litany of people in the establishment media repeating the same line. Did you ever see that? That all of a sudden this is the line of the day, you know?
Right.
Like, and then everybody says that line. I mean, that's a slap in your face. If they've all been given their marching orders by a central command, that's proof that they're all full of crap. I mean, they're not even thinking independently. They've all been given the same line, and every channel you turn to, you're hearing the same line. I mean, that's an insult to us. You know, and right away, when I see that happening, that person lost all this credibility with me. And I'm not going to listen to anything that person says anymore.
Because nothing they say is their own faults.
Yeah, exactly. They're just liars for hire, like I said earlier, you know. And that's the world we live in. So I don't want to leave on, unless you guys want to say something else, I just wanted to wrap it up.
Right.
I just want to say that I don't want to leave on a note to say gloom and doom and everything is lost. You know, I think that it's like a rubber band. If you stretch a rubber band, the further you stretch it, the harder it's going to snap back. And baby, they've stretched us, and I think there's going to be a snapping back in November of this year, and at least I hope so. And when and you know that somebody was saying about these, we were talking about the January 6th in an thing in an earlier video, and Jim, I forgot who it was, but one of the Republicans, real Republicans, said that after Republicans come in power, we're going to keep these hearings and these committees going, and then it'll be under our control, and we're going to bring all of these, you know, wrongdoers to justice.
Right.
And that would be something to look forward to. So the people of this country, and I know because I have spent most of my life as a worker. I'm a window installer. I am a window mechanic. I mean, I do a lot of other different things, but I've always been good with my hands, and I've been doing lots of work for lots of different people. I've traveled all around New Jersey, the state I've lived in. I've been in thousands of homes. I've seen thousands of people, all different kinds of people, and I can tell you as an eyewitness, and not just in New Jersey, but other states as well, that American people are good people. Not all of them, but the overwhelming majority of American people are good people. Do not think that these scumbags that are on the establishment media represent the rest of us. They are not the rest of us. We the people of America, have caring, conscience, we have compassion, we have a desire for fairness, and in the end, the people of America will prevail. And I think that's about it. I think Misha, come on, man. Come here, Misha. I want you to introduce you to my dog. This is a black lab. He's called, you want Misha? He's called a Norfolk. And this dog is like a soldier. I mean, right now he's very calm because he knows Ben and Dan. But when somebody strange comes to the house, well, all of a sudden you see him turning into a monster. But he's a loyal friend and one of the best dogs we've ever had. Anyway, take care. Nice to be with you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we look forward to the next time. And by the way, we're starting a Discord on our
website.
On our website. Could you tell them a little bit about it?
Discord is a website where people can chat and do a voice and video calls to talk together, and it's a great way to get everyone together in the conversation. For anyone who finds our website,
which is
whitepoststudio.com.
whitepoststudio.com. Go to our website, participate in the Discord, just a conversation. We'll try to monitor it and maybe engage in conversation with you, and trying to build a community. Thank you, and that's it. Goodbye, guys.
Just going to